Hello and welcome to Blytheway Business News. For this edition, I'm joined by Mark Frankcom, who is Finance Director of National Milk Records. National Milk Records is listed on the Aquis market, a symbol of NMRP, and a market capitalisation of around £21 million sterling. Mark, you've just announced an interim set of results. Surprise, surprise, very positive. I've looked at them, they look great, but just talk us through the key metrics. I mean, I see turnovers up and profits up. You paid a dividend last November, but what do you see as, what's the detail? What's the highlights in here?
Well, good morning, and I think that some of the key messages are that we're in growth. We're in a sector which is growing, and NMR has delivered the results for these 6 months, which show the growth figures that you said, Tim. From a trading perspective, our turnover is up 6.1% at just over 11 million, and our earnings before interest, tax, depreciation and amortization, our EBITDA number, is up at 19.5% at just over 1.1 million, and that's after investing in our IT team this year. So we're pleased with those numbers. And in terms of our balance sheet and cash flows, as you say, we paid a dividend in November. That was 1.5 pence, which was higher than the previous November. And also we continue to invest in line with our strategic plan. So we invested a little over 0.6 million in the 6 months to December 21. And despite the fact that we have paid down a VAT creditor, so we took advantage of the VAT holiday available in the first COVID lockdown. So that was still on our balance sheet in December 2020. That was paid down this year in March, so that doesn't feature on our December 21 balance sheet. And in spite of that, our net debt has stayed stable at 0.6 million, or just 0.4 times EBITDA. So a lot of stats there, but essentially, a solid balance sheet and growth in our trading picture.
Mark, you and the team come on the programme on a regular basis, and you've always got fabulous results to report. What is it? What's the factors which underpin your business, which enable you to do this kind of strong financial reporting?
Well, I think first and foremost, we're part of a strong and resilient UK dairy sector, which in itself is in growth. And even during the pandemic, UK dairy has shown growth and extremely resilient in making sure that the strong customer demand has been met. And whether that's milk for my tea in the morning or my cheese on toast now I'm working from home, at lunchtime it's it's always available. So first and foremost, part of a stable, resilient industry. And secondly, that we're very focused on our strategic plan. So firstly, to focus on our core business of testing milk, but also pursuing opportunities where they arise for growth, such as genomics testing, which we'll come on to hopefully later. But also I think it's worth mentioning the efforts and determination of the people at NMR. We are a 365, 24/7 operation, and all the way through the last 2 years, our people, whether in the field, on farm, or in our laboratories, have been turning up, making sure that we hit our commitments to our customers.
You talk there, Mark, about a strong dairy industry. We're drinking milk, we're having cheese on toast. That clearly supports sales and then drives testing. A strong dairy industry, but somewhat disappointingly, I suppose. The BBC is reporting cruelty within the industry, abuse of cattle on dairy farmers. As the National Milk Records, do you have a view on this?
Well, I watched the Panorama broadcast, and it was very upsetting in parts, and clearly abuse of animals at all is totally unacceptable. And thankfully, there are very progressive companies and very big and important companies within dairy who have much higher standards that we can rely on. So they will drive improvements in the industry, and hopefully what we saw on telly last night is very much the exception in an industry which is continuing to improve.
Thank you for that. Now, you mentioned a few moments ago genomics. Testing is increasing. Why is it increasing, and what does that say, in your view, about the industry and consumers?
Well, it's new technology, isn't it? And this is, I guess, one of those examples that where America leads, the rest of the world follows. So genomics testing in the dairy herd in the US is about 32% of animals in America are tested genomically, and that compares to about 11% in the UK. But both countries are accelerating in terms of the penetration of that testing. And the reason for that is that when a farmer makes his breeding decisions, and that they're often determined by objectives, whether that is productivity or a healthy animal or other issues such as mobility, for instance, they will find out the results of that breeding when the calf is born and then reared and itself becoming pregnant, which typically happens. A calf is often served at about 2 years old. And then 9 months later, it will have its calf and the lactation will begin. So there's quite a long time between making the breeding decision in a conventional process to find out the results of that decision. Whereas a genomic process, you can take a genomic test of that calf within days of it being born and find out the results of that breeding decision. So it is accelerating the intelligence available to the farmer to make those return on investment calculations.
Let me take you from genomics then to Genome Cells. You're already doing some of this, but you're now getting close to the commercial launch of Genome Cells. Can you remind the viewers what that is and what does it mean for National Milk Records?
Yeah, with Genome Cells, so firstly, the breeding process is a reason why a farmer may milk record, and another reason is to test the cells that are present in his bulk tank of milk, and that is because a cow will shed white blood cells into the milk, and a cow which is fighting infection will shed more cells into the milk, and these cells are actually a payment parameter for the buyers of the milk, and a higher cell count will result or can result in payment penalties. So clearly there's a very strong link to the economics for the farmer, and conventional milk recording is one way of testing the cell counts for individual animals, where Genome Cells uses a new technology where if your herd is genomically tested and you know the DNA identity of each individual animal, we are able to determine the shedders, the individual animals shedding cells into the bulk tank simply from a sample of bulk milk from the tank itself. So rather than a sample from each individual animal, it is just from the bulk tank. And the impact on that for farmers is significant because the effort for milk recording, getting people on farm, taking individual samples, is an investment and potentially disruptive. So Genome Cells technology enables the cells part of the milk recording service to be available in a much more convenient way for the farmer.
And presumably a source of revenue for National Milk Records. I mean, who knew there was so much science between the farmyard and my cup of tea? But thank you for that. Let me just challenge you on one thing, Mark. You said earlier in the interview the strength of the dairy industry, but as I understand it, the number of dairy herds in the UK is currently in decline. How are you protecting yourself against that, or what impact could that have on National Milk Records?
Well, that is true that the number of farms in the UK and Great Britain is declining modestly every year by about 3%. But the size of the herd itself is fairly stable, and that is because the animals are providing the milk demanded by the market. We know whether that is in retail or the service sector. And that demand is actually growing. So the retail sector, for example, grew either side of the pandemic, and we're actually in a situation now where 2021 retail volumes were 6% higher than they were in 2019. So dairy overall is in growth, and the headline that the number of farms is in decline is true, but overall the sector is growing.
Right, so you're quite positive about that. Are you positive about, we're sitting here in the early weeks of 2022, are you positive about the rest of the year? What can we expect from National Milk Records in 2022?
Well, I think more of the same. You know, obviously we're very excited about Genome Cells and its commercial launch, which we'll see later this year, and hopefully, you know, greater penetration of genomics testing in the UK dairy herd. But you know, we will continue to be very focused on our strategic plan, on our core business, investing in our core business, and driving, you know, those trading figures that our investors are looking for.
Mark, thank you for joining us, and we wish you luck with that. That was Mark Frankcom, Finance Director of National Milk Records. As I said at the start of the programme, National Milk Records listed on the Aquis market. You'll find them with the symbol of NMRP. That's it from Blytheway Business News for this edition. Thanks for watching.